Oh, hello. Didn't see you there. Again. Hello, welcome to the overview of this project. As you can see, it's a little bit different. There's no video or anything. Well, no presentation video accompanying it. That's because this project is a little bit different. So, to start off, this project started off as an idea to just make a building in Graz, which is where I'm living here in Austria. But then it kind of, well, it kind of snowballed into something more. I expected to have more time on my hands than I actually did. Thus, the project got cut short, and we are left with what we have here. So, here we have a recreation of the building in Graz. It is, I think, the Congress House, something, here on the main square. And this project was interesting to me because I did a few projects where I tried to do modules, but most of them were put together, connected within Blender. And then I had the the Hotel the Majestic, which was again very modular, modular, and again put in within Blender itself, so not modular at all. And with this one, I actually wanted to do a complete modular approach to a building. So, actual proper modules. Modules. Okay, got an assistant. Shit, my hair is tight. Forget it. Let's do it like this. Much better. Okay. So, let's go throughout the project. So first we're going to go through the project that is what it is now, as in finished, and then we're going to go to see how it stopped, where I didn't want to continue going on, and we're going to elaborate on that further on. Also, the project took way longer to get to the stage than I expected, thus it was cut short, in case anybody's wondering. If you followed along the daily to weekly reports. So, let's get into it. Okay, so here we have the building. Each and every piece segment here is modular, which means it can be moved, repositioned basically anywhere, and it can be used to create the building of any size. Allegedly. So the specialty about these things is so far there are only two baked textures. So we have this texture here, this mesh, and this here is baked. So these little stone blocks are baked, and these details, let's just put this thing here, are baked as well. To showcase that, let's just break this module. Here we have on this mesh, we have trim. So if I remove this, basically anything non-baked is removed. So as you can see, or no, everything baked is removed because these things are baked. So this is baked here, this is baked here, all of these things here, the details here. And now you might be thinking, well, why did I bake these things in particular? Well, I guess, doesn't matter. Basically, these things I tried to do flat with no bevel or anything. They didn't really turn out that well, or at least it would have taken a little bit more effort on the texturing side. But if I did completely bake them flat, it didn't look that good at all, and again would have needed a little bit more effort in terms of texturing to make it work, and I'm out of water. So I just opted to try and bake everything as much as possible. And then we reach, of course, and here's the other one. This is tiled, so this is a tile material, just one flat 2K texture, as well as this. These are all the details here. as well as this module here. They use the exact same texture, they're on the exact same trim sheet. Let's go back. I'm gonna call it here, so remove it. I'm gonna remove from this one as well. Showcase, so where's the texture that we have? So this is trim matte, and if I just put it on top of this, you can see these are the same big textures. And this is just stone and color. Now, these things, some of these things have more detail in them than they should have. Let's say these are very, very much rounded but flattened, while these cubes here have more topology but have no baked texture. It was a lot of experimentation of what to do, what not to do, what to even try, how to approach it. And in the beginning I mentioned that this is there's no point in doing too much optimization with the time I have, which is true. And on the other side is I could have done it later on, but again, this is something that I was questioning if I was even doing, so I found it better to just acknowledge that yes, this is not optimal, it could have been done better, it could have been done more optimized, but for experimentation purposes, this is more than enough. It's the recording, beautiful. The same goes with this on top. This is actual mesh, and in the end I would have probably just baked this down into one flat trim sheet. And these, well, things here, they're quite uninteresting, so probably would have baked these as well and just use them all throughout. Much like the roof segments here, these are quite, I would say, dense in terms of topology, overly dense for what they're doing, but they're fine for what they are. These things as well are the same texture as the previous stream sheet, just cut in the middle and just paste it together. And when you look at it from a distance, you really can't tell that it's that. The same goes for the window. It is basically baked completely, no, not baked completely. The top portion here, as you can see, is baked to here and then multiplied a few times, while the side is baked to the middle here. Now let us go into Blender. Oh, that's a different project. Let's do upper part. I think it's this. One take. I should have prepared for this. Oh well. So let me find it. Ah, here we have the high poly item. So basically everything here is high poly, and on the second one it is the low poly, and on the is it on the fifth? On the fifth we have the cages. So basically we have the high poly, the pure mesh, the low poly to bake onto, and the cage to tell us to how far it's going to be baked. So let's go back to the low poly. And let's switch between high poly. As you can see, the window here on high poly looks like this, while on the low poly it's cut in these areas. The same with these little nubbins, these flat parts of the wall, the flat and circular pillars, the inside of the window or the outside of the window. This is the outside frame, as well as the, let's say, the stones here, which are baked flat, and the details. All of this was done to try to optimize as much as possible, and I think I achieved it pretty well, because the way it is, the texture is basically jam-packed. Now, I did a few errors along the way because I had all this done and I thought, well, I could have squeezed a little bit more window, and because I wasn't in the process of optimizing it like in the cleanup part, I just resized the window itself to fit in this small corner, but again, it's so far away and it's gonna get resized so many times just to make it look nice that I just kind of skipped it at this stage. Even the door hinges, the window hinges. So basically one segment flipped a few times. So this is one 2K texture, and to make the entire thing here that we see, basically it is a flat, let's just see, this one has all, so a tiled white wall, a trim with everything baked, a tiled yellow wall, a baked arch, and a tiled marble or stone material. So basically 5 materials to create the entire section here. Why did I delete this boy? There you go. So basically 5 materials, all that was needed to create this. But then you also have the roof, which is 6. This part is again the stone material, and the metal is on the roof segment, the stoppers, and the metal here. So is that still 6? Yes, that is still 6. And the stone here is 7. So basically the entire building is comprised of 7 materials or textures. Yeah, which I think is pretty optimized in terms of what you need. So if this was to be used in a game and you needed to have buildings of different colors, you would just swap out, switch out, or program to exchange the albedo texture, and that's it. All the roughness and metalness, normal, is still saved within the texture itself. So if you look at it here, so basically, okay, I was wrong. Because there's still stone in here, I could have specifically said, okay, all the wall pieces go, the stone pieces of the same color go into one portion, and the wall color pieces go into another. But you get the idea. It could have been done a little bit differently, but for my use case, this was totally fine and more than enough. And if I wanted to do different buildings, I would have later on probably just, switched it up a bit. Now let's get on to the features. So here we have a chimneys. They are very much modular. So these things, I wasn't quite sure how I'm going to tackle these chimneys because older buildings have a variety of chimneys. So some have longer things. Yeah, these things are longer, so I thought, okay, I can just make them resizable, and from this distance you can't really tell. But the same goes for these things. Oh, see how work in progress it was? It wasn't even centered properly. So you could extend this and basically make a huge ass chimney, like as long as you want, and it still looks decent. And the same goes with this portion, resizable. So when you have all these things together, you can basically just resize the chimney to a certain amount. It was based on the widest chimney possible, so I think a 3 stack. So it can be thinner, not that thin, and it can be wider. So basically all the versions of chimneys that we have here, except for the longer stack. These things, I'm not sure if these things are to keep tiles from falling or to catch them in case of whatever, or if there's snow to keep it from falling and damaging the drain, but again, they are tileable. Yes, the center point was based on the center point of the roof, and I think majority of the modules, yes, they are flat out down, which makes things easier for placement for these things. Like, it is more difficult, but chimneys are usually in one position, which is why I had the center points centered in this area. And all of these other things are centered to themselves. And of course, they're all tiled on a step of 50, but it can be basically anything. These things are movable, and based on my research, they're much more frequent, but I think it looks good when they're placed in a position like, okay, this is a segment, this segment, this is a segment. And it looks nice as well. The top part is basically baked with the baked it is. It is just a tileable texture, but it's with the roof tile. And here is where I'm going to point out the first mistake. I think I didn't fix it. When I was doing this, I was working on this project as in module by module instead of making a building and tiling it, because this approach to me was faster, and whenever I did like a full building, there were problems with it because I wasn't anticipating how it's going to look in the end. So here I took a different approach, and let's say it's not perfect. Or did I fix it? No, it's not perfect. But it doesn't tile properly once it leaves the corner, if I'm not mistaken. And because of this, I couldn't have circular segments, or let's say weird roof segments. As I said, that would have required me to make the entire building and then work on top of it to adjust module pieces. But since mine were already done, it was very much a hassle to have module pieces, place them, recreate them, and then rebake each and every segment. In the end, if I wanted to do that, I would have to basically rebake each and everything. But that's the last step of optimization when you know how things are made, so I kind of just skipped it in the end. So let's look at the roof segments. Because these things are, well, let's say predictable, I think I made 3 or 4 different pieces. So we have a corner piece, we have another short piece, but it has a end. So basically this part is blocked off, while this part here isn't, because it connects to the other one, and you can't really tell it's not connected from this area, while for this one you can. And it's also an optimization trick, so basically you don't need the additional polygons here. Again, something to think about. These things would have had to be baked, but these things, these details here are used, are the same, basically trim tile. So if you just go here, no, not this. If you just go here, we can see it is the same trim material as we used in the other segments. So if I delete this, it deletes this. So if I go to this one, let's find material and just plop it on. Yeah, apparently not this one. So which one is it? It's this one. All right, I had to be specific about it. If I put it on this, yes, it works. Before I placed it on this, and this doesn't work. And it shows you what I used from the original tiled material, or let's say baked material, and continued reusing, while the rain, yes, is just a tiled, unbaked material, as well as the wall tiled itself. So it was thought out very well. Let's see what else we have. So we have this piece. I can't seem to remember. Is it really only 2 pieces? Yeah, it's 3. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Basically solved all my problems. Now there's another thing. Looking at these buildings, the roof is usually very flat and it doesn't bulge out or go back in. And if you look at the reference images, looking at this building from the top, this is basically straight and the roof does not reach to the endpoint here, which is a blessing, because that means I can basically make the same, use the same roof tile and not have to think about pushing it forward and like in increment steps of like, let's say 10 to position it like this, and then, oh no, it's got a hole here. Some do have it like this, but luckily this building didn't, and if it did, I would have adjusted it. Also, because the viewing angle is from here, it doesn't need to be totally accurate or connected, which saves a little bit of time. Now let's get on to the segments themselves. So, yeah, let's just take this. So this thing basically tiles to itself. You can tile it on top of it if you want it. Not really correct, but it is a possibility. And also you can just tile or position it like this next to each other to have basically an infinitely long building. Now, in terms of let's say these building blocks, these positions, these things that you use, there are rules to this. Because I'll just show it as an example. So basically all the buildings have a certain rule to them and how to make them look beautiful. So the bottom one, let's find a better segment. So we have the arch, then we have the circular one here, and then suddenly there's a squared one. And on top of them, these have no pillars, or at least these thing-looking pillars that we have here. And on top is just another different way. Oh, look, it's circular. I didn't even notice it. I was that tired when I was working on this. So there are rules to how to position these things, and I abide by these rules. And these rules also help me to, well, make better modules. So let's start. So in terms of these things, they tile on top of each other, but there are rules to this. If you have this piece, you can put, let's say, itself on top of it. It's going to be no problem, but it's technically not correct, and it overhangs a bit. So that's kind of the rule as to can you attach to it. But if you don't use this and just straight up connect these things, you can. It might look a little bit weird, but I implemented it so that it has like a window seal approach to these kind of things, and even the window kind of fits. Oh, different. There's different rule to that. For the window to straight up fit, you have to use it like this. I think it's a step of like 10 or 15, so a little bit different, but not too difficult. These two can be exchanged into any position you want. Has even thought about that because I put a little overhang into it. So if you put it like this, it actually goes over the under module. It's a little bit of a thing here as a detail, but it works. And if you have it on the bottom portion and this on top, it hides itself within the trim here itself. So I did think about these things because I was thinking like, oh, I'm actually going to do a street and I'm going to make it more cinematic. Hey, so much for that. So yeah, this was fun, and of course these things just go basically everywhere, but are made in a certain way so that they hide any imperfection, any details regarding wherever they are. Do they fit on this? Yes, they do. See, even thought about that. It fits differently, but again, from a distance, you don't really notice this, let's say, distance or embedding error. So, yeah. So now you're thinking, oh, so why didn't I just make a straight module? Well, I'll showcase that. Let's take this. Oh, hello. Because I did research before and afterwards about Deus Ex, and they did a few modules and then segments, and I thought, okay, well, I'll do modules, but I'll think about segments later on. And the reason why I didn't do entire segments is because if I want to do a corner piece, these things connect good enough, but look a little bit weird, but okay, fine, you'll survive. The problem is these corner pieces need to be hidden. And I have them here. I made small corner pieces which fit directly into this to fix this issue. The same with this. So now you're thinking, oh, that's great, problem done. Well, this corner piece goes one way. Well, how do you solve this? You duplicate it, transform, mirror X. There you go, perfect. But because this is duplicated here, there is a possibility of z-fighting. As you can see, it is happening when you move. So that wasn't an option. And I might like to, well, as I said before, not use the middle segment. I might just use the top segment. So that's why I used, well, segments. And there wasn't enough time to do this, but it was quite easily implemented. Let's just delete this. I made entirely different segment for this, for each and every step. Oh, pardon me, I just ate. I'm gonna pull it all out. So here we go. Doesn't matter. Basically, for the time being, I created smaller walls. Here you can see I already finished the, well, basically final look of the wall. Again, a baked texture, and it also tiles properly. So a lot of work was put into this. There you go. You can notice this is a tile, but when you're going in a game and everything else, you don't really notice it. So here I could have just added the paint. Where is it? There you go, yellow. But it has other issues. So you can tell this wasn't a finished product at this moment in time. But all the kinks, all the issues, the technical things were being figured out as I went, learning through the project itself. It was, I think, 2 months of work, 1 hour per day. So basically, let's say 2 months. So about 60 hours, give or take, plus minus, and skipped a few days. But this was the approach that I used, and I really like this approach, and I think it's quite functional. It is a bit pedantic in some aspects of it, but it offers you a lot of flexibility, so that really depends on what you need. I'm just looking at the timer, 27 minutes. Ooh. Okay. And then we have certain segments, like, let's say this part, I think. No. In the beginning, this part had, well, had this embedded in itself, because on the reference material, as you can see, or the circular one, always had these things next to it. So there wasn't any segment which didn't have it, but then we had a problem. Here it had on the left, here it had on the right. So I had to separate it. So all of these things could have been removed and adjusted as much as I wanted to, well, adjust for the design itself, or sometimes even added on a whim. It is again completely tiled. The difference is, if I delete those, let's just use this one. On a step of 50, this wasn't quite perfect. This wasn't quite perfect, is it? It leaked a little bit here. So a step of 10, and then back to 50, and it tiled properly. Wrong. Grabbed segment. There you go. And it snaps properly, even reaches the very, very top. And with this, there's also a problem of staying within line of these lines. So I couldn't really cheat it here. So if this was on the step of 10 before, it didn't really line up. So some sacrifice or adjustment had to be made. But once you did it for the entire floor, you could just basically move the entire thing everywhere and anywhere you wanted. What else? In terms of modules for this, it is what it is, and it is, well, I would say very optimized and offers a lot of possibility. or it could be optimized even further based on what you need. Like as I said, you could, if it's more resource lighter, you could have made proper segments, but I think this approach is good. Now here, originally there were supposed to be doors, but were just stone, concrete things to block it. And there are also steps for windows, but again, there's nothing behind them. Now within the textures, you can see there was a lot of work put into this. And with that said, I think I covered each and everything separately. Let's just look at the window. As I said, the window is optimized very much. This can be changed into any texture you want within the middle. So if you want the middle to be yellow, I just made it yellow. So a lot of time was put into thinking how I could make as many buildings and adjustments as possible as fast as possible. Sadly, the project didn't reach the heights I wanted it to. But yeah, here there's just glass, and then here is just 100% metal, reflective window, but this is usually how things look when you look at a window from outside. You could have added curtains and other things, but nah. So with that said, let's move on to how the project was actually going on. For that, I'll have to switch to a different level. Also, if you're noticing, it's very, very smooth. I got a new GPU. It's Graz 2, Graz 1. So in the original documentation, I said I wanted to look Deus Ex-like. So this is how far I've gotten with the project. Let's just full screen it. Basically, I wanted a lot of glass. I wanted usable buildings. I wanted some, let's say, maybe a little bit of an uncomfortable or unusable design, but it should mostly be usable. So the idea here was, originally in the documentation, this segment here was glassed completely and the others not. But I ended up just adding glass here and glass here to make it stand out like the massness of the building. And because this is receded in, it's, let's say, it stands out differently. While the center part as well, so this could have been an entrance, this could have been an entrance. But in the end, the idea here was to put like a projector, like a screen of this, there's, what is it? Lockdown, martial law, something, or maybe nice messages. And here we have an elevator. The elevator was fully made. This is very polygon heavy, so to speak, but since it's static, it's quite, the light is lagging my recording. But yeah, let's just look at it separately. As you can see, it is very much a work in progress. There are so many textures that need to be here. But yeah, you have the front glass, the knobs here that hold the glass in there. I would say overly designed or realistic, but during this entire time I researched Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, and what they had to do to optimize these things, and it was actually way more detailed than I expected, but I just pushed a little bit more, and it's not really unreasonable, or well, that depends on the person, but they're not baked, so they could be reduced quite easily. But since they're on the forefront, I thought it would be nice to have them be like really detailed. So the doors are separated, pillars here support these pillars that go throughout the entire construction. Now we go on the inside, the support beams here, gripping these parts here. And yeah, a lot of time was put into this. As I said, the support beams, oh, this actually works well. when it's not full screen. Support beams, as you can see, the middle part actually connects on top of itself, so this part can really should be rotated any way you want and it's going to be fine. Steps of 50. And this here is the entrance. Let's just showcase. What is it? Post-processing adaptation. Because it's a bit dark. There we go. This has also a elevator cabin, also on textures, but basically the same thing. And you can rotate this any way you want as well. It doesn't matter, it's going to line up perfectly. So modularity, as I said, was very much key. And now it's a bit bright. This was a special piece. This was an angled piece, which again can be rotated in any direction, but it had to be given a roof. It couldn't just be this part or just like the bottom piece with an exit. It actually had to be done separately. And it doesn't align properly to this, but it aligns well enough to not be noticeable. So let's take this. Let's take this. And as you can see, it just jumps a little bit too high and a little bit too low, I think. So again, it was step 10, and now it's aligned. And the entrance here would have been blocked, so you couldn't see where it actually goes. Showcase, processing, addition off. This building, this thing here, originally I wanted to have just like a cube, like a really fuck off futuristic cube on top of this thing, and it was supposed to be like a club, disco, something, and this entrance is supposed to be moved a little bit to the right, as in this is grand, where this is not practical. This is basically just, we can do this, this is the entrance, this is private, nobody can enter this other than the elevator. Then I thought this could actually be a research facility. And from the bottom perspective, like here, it actually fills up the area really, really nicely. And I worked, I think, 2 weeks straight to try to figure out the proper shape, the idea here. And I think it works really nice. The design wasn't final, but I was really looking forward to finishing it because it was getting there. And as I was getting there, this was when the project was like, it's getting too big, I'm gonna have to cancel the scope of it. So let's look at this part. That was let's look at this part continuously forward. So because of these areas here, I said, oh, this could actually be a school. So these parts were entrances, main entrance, different entrance, whatever. This could be the observatory or something. And here you have like a tunnel to a different part of it. So it could have been like a connecting building, a modified additional building. Because on this side, I have a tunnel that goes down, and as you can see, I already made a tunnel to the point where any direction you look at it, you wouldn't be able to see the bottom or the end of it. And because these things were connected, I thought like, oh, so this is a proper school, so it has like a curved connectivity going on, thing like a proper campus. What could we do with this? Well, usually these kinds of places don't have auditoriums. The auditorium is somewhere else in the city, like in my back home in Slovenia, we had an auditorium that was like 30 minutes by foot away, or like 10-15 minutes by bus, at the faculty of chemistry or physics. So I thought, what if we turn a portion of the building into an auditorium? So I thought, okay, this could be an auditorium, but then we need a different passageway, so they're not gonna just walk here under this area. Oh wait, just turn this on. Also did this part. We need an actual passageway, and how passageways are done these days is basically they pull out the building, extend it outward. So I made a two-story pathway And entrance to this building here, we're using the window, and granted this is like I think a meter, so it's still a proper size and it's the correct size. So this is a male 1.8 meters 60 centimeters, and they could still walk normally. This was just the elevator shaft we used and adjusted a bit, but this it was the solution. So imagine having like lights here, radiators, or chairs, and here you can actually see, okay, there's a conference going on here. You can see that it's actually part of the auditorium. The same goes with here. Again, reusing what we have in terms of architecture, so saving the original building and its design, and just reinforcing and changing it a little bit. Now with this here, it is a little bit higher, but imagine that here students are sitting, so you're looking behind them, or maybe there's a curtain to block it off, or maybe there's just something else here. Here already a floor higher, and you're looking down at the auditorium itself, so maybe this could have been a different type of window. And also this gives you the ability to like really make a light, really bright hallway with reinforced pillars, not changing the general design, but just adjusting so that it's supporting it. And here on top, again, just to add a little bit more light to not break what we have here. And the roof is just the glass roof is just an extension of the roof itself. This part really like brought it forward for me, and had so much potential to be basically a showcase in itself. Even just with this angle, like just the view here is phenomenal, at least to me. But sadly, time. Let's look at this here. So since this is a school area, or let's say this was an old research area district, so now it's a school, you always have like the prophet, the savior, the head teacher, or something that happened in this location. So you need a statue. Let's see, statue. So let's just get a scale going. So this was the scale of the statue. And benches, so this is quite huge, it's big, but I would say to a certain point or degree it is average size as in main square statues. I went with this design, or I guess I didn't even save it. Let me just adjust it. It's under textures, so I think I had something like this planned out, or a different kind of metal. So like, so let's say this is a teacher, or the one that sacrificed herself, or made this a school. So either chemistry, medicine, or whatever. And this was a model taken from the museum that has free models. Oh goodness me, I don't remember what it's called. The Smithsonian, there we go, the Smithsonian. And this was such a nice statue because it was, the original poly count was very detailed. I think this actually is the original one, 150,000. It's very majestic. In a certain point, it's also overly dramatic. It's not a mass, so it's different. And it has the possibility of, let's say, I would like to extend this, make this a fountain. This could easily add a fountain, a water feature, a light, a cable, or something that connects these areas, so it could be like connecting people, knowledge, and everything. And I also made an area for a plaque. So it was thought out a lot. Or in the worst case, it could be like connecting wires for electricity, or let's say a festival or something. And it was thought of as a fountain initially, with the idea of having a water feature underneath it. So if there was a water feature, it would have gone back into the statue or dripped down from it. And then there were like faucets here, which would have went in here and just like underneath water animation, and just extend it to certain areas. It was really a centerpiece of this project here. Even if you just look at it like this angle, it's just majestic. It's huge. It's showcase. It's an important building. Something happened. This person here was important, and the benches here, as in, yeah, this is now a calm place and of importance. And these trees being planted here as an added shade due to all of the metal around it. Now, if you look at this part here, this was still a work in progress. This was the other part of experimentation. So we have, okay, make it look nice, then modify it, make it practical. This was either building got ruined in the war of whatever timeline. It broke down, had to be renovated because it was old or breaking or something. So I thought, okay, if I do it like this, is gonna be the same. This is gonna be the same. Theoretically, let's just push this in, add a staircase so that people could go to the auditorium. So like this was thought of as the actual area of entrance. Where are the textures? So you can see it better. So this was supposed to be like a grand metal and glass entrance to all of the floors, and it had the same amount of modification as this, but let's say more properly, and with the glass overview on top here, as you can see from this area. Sadly, it didn't go far past the idea phase of the project. So if you look at this, these are all the materials that are used or not used, just prepared, with each individual thing just laid out here. And in terms of graphics, let's just go through module first. There's a lot of modules. They're all named modules because in the end I didn't get to name them properly because it was unfinished. Go away. But yeah, a lot of it was thought out thoroughly, with the idea to actually finish this, but sadly it's not going to be finished. But you're going to be able to research this as much as your heart desires. For €1, you're going to get the Unreal project, the Blender meshes, the textures, and basically everything with the project. And wait a second, there's something missing. Something is missing. Graphics. Oh, it's a decal. Let's just make it a little bit. Yeah, you know what the decals is. I wanted to make like a tobacco shop first. So, I think for the last step I should go through the project steps themselves. Let's go through Graz, saved, screenshots. Oh, actually, yeah. So the project started theoretically. Let's look at it. 30th of November, but let's say 20th or 23rd of November, because this is apparently day 7, and ended on January 30th. So this was 3 months in active development as the mainline project that I was doing, and it would have taken me at least twice the amount of time, if not more, to make all these things work, because it wasn't just take it, make it, it was actually designing things, and with my job I couldn't actually, didn't have the energy to do it. But let's just go through it. So here is the, I would say, first step of actually things are becoming modular. Then yeah, here Unreal Craft itself with a screenshot. Again, more modularity, lighting changes, another floor, testing the extension of it, testing the trim here, the top trim, windows pushed out, these things, these details pushed 10 steps up higher to be in line with these things. What happened here? Nothing. So there was an empty step in 13. Oh, I guess I forgot to take a screenshot or something. Here, on the 14th, I actually started doing these benches and a bus stop. I did some quick AI generated concepts, which didn't lead anywhere. They were nice looking, but in the end I just did something completely different. On the 15th day, you can see textures and a bit more of the bus stop and how things went, and I started adding tracks and doing changes to the tiles set on the floor. Rolling shutters, doors, windows, tobacco shop signs. Here is where I started adding glass and where the project kind of took off a new life. Like this was done on 16. Let's see when 16 was. 8th of January, so 6 weeks ago, or let's say a month and a week ago. This is where I should have stopped the project, because I honestly haven't done anything. Wait, was this a week ago, 2 weeks ago? January 30th, 2 weeks ago now, yeah. But yeah, let's keep moving forward. So rolling shutters, shop, coffee shop, showcasing with my hand. Glass. Then I was like, okay, we have to redesign this. As you can see, the elevator here was originally placed a little bit further away. This got a different roof extension, with these parts here being more stand out. Already I was showcasing this, but with no idea. I just wanted things to look interesting, to be pleasing, and let's say made some amount of visual sense and clarity, which I think worked really, really well. Yeah. Also, I'm going to also include the PDF document with all these things explained, so you can check out the other angles, which I also took pictures of. Here you can see I started doing glass. I started experimenting with many glass shaders. I think I did like 7 or 8. I think they're still included. And on the right, I started again tiling these things. In these days, you can tell not much was done because it was figuring out, learning, designing how to do what. It was very difficult. This, I think, was the hard part of the project. Besides the realization of, well, this is going to take a long amount of time. The elevator. It went from nothing to basically everything. It already opened up the view for this. And as you can still see, this here is a cube. Now we get to another thing. I think this was more than a few hours. Could have been a weekend or holidays where I worked on this. It was starting to take shape. The ideas were coming to fruition. Like, okay, things are coming along nicely, and I was really motivated. So like, okay, let's go design this. It was really a design push. And here I started redesigning that. So obviously, at this stage, I think I stopped doing daily updates because it took me some time to do them, and it was quite unpractical. It took, I think, 30 minutes to do them when I should have gone to bed already. So I think here I switched to a weekly, or I wanted to switch to weekly, just never did. Here we have already some segments blocking offs, and the statue making its first appearance. Moving the statue, texturing, more doors. Again, small changes. What can you do within an hour, end of the day, after an entire day of work? Not much. And here you can see I was starting to focus on the sculpture, because like, okay, I know where I'm going with that. I want to do the sculpture because it's an important centerpiece. More texturing work, but put the bench in with the tree, and that's about it. Showcasing things that I did. But yeah, it was a difficult pill to swallow that this project needed to be shut down and adjusted, readapted, or just basically published. Because the last project that I had that was quite big in scope, I never published. There was no reason to publish it because it wasn't even technically done. It was just a really cool idea. But yeah, thanks for watching. It's been an hour 55. Hope you find some of it interesting, or at least amusing enough to watch it. Again, the project is on sale for €1, $1. I forgot which conversion I'm using. Blender files, textures, materials, Unreal project. It's all going to be used, and the only thing that's going to be missing are going to be the trees because they're a bought asset. So I would have removed it from the final project regardless. Yeah, I have 2 other projects ideas in the works, which should come along much faster and nicer and be a little bit more specific. And I think I'm gonna put environment or level design to the side because I just don't have the time and energy. And I'm gonna do more quaint, more emotional filled particle effects and just like small dioramas moving forward. Thanks again for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and see you next time. Where's the shut off button? Bye.